Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com with some August 17th U.S. history. On this date in 1922, about 60% of the United States was over 90 degrees. People were dying from the heat all over the country, and massive forest fires were ravaging Minnesota. A number of people died in the fires, several towns were wiped out, and hundreds of people became homeless. On this date in 1988, La Crosse, Wisconsin recorded their 8th day over 100 degrees. The only summer which was hotter than that was 1936. On this date in 1936, 60% of the U.S. was over 90 degrees, and temperatures in Kansas were well over 110 degrees. It was 113 at Kansas City. In Chicago, the head of the Farm Relief Program said more than 100,000 farmers will be forced on relief as their crops are burned to dust. At Washington, the department added new counties to its drought relief areas for a total of 977 counties in 22 states. Here's an article which appeared on this date in 1936. We must be going in for records in 1936. Record blizzards, record dust storms, record floods, record drought, record heat wave. If it keeps up, Americans will need to show record endurance. And on this date in 1909 was the hottest day on record in parts of Kansas. Great corn crop badly damaged. Dry and hot winds creating havoc. Smashed all heat records. At Muskogee, the temperature was 114 3/4 with hot winds burning the crops. Hot weather like this doesn't happen much in the U.S. anymore. The percent of days over 95 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 degrees Celsius has plummeted since the 1930s, with recent years being close to record lows. Hot weather was much more common in the United States prior to 1960 than it has been over the past 60 years. Now let's take a look at this date in 1969. The Gulf Coast was hit by Hurricane Camille, which had measured winds of 190 miles per hour. Unfortunately, the gauge broke, so we don't actually know what the top wind speed was. Hurricane Camille on August 17, 1969 was the second most intense hurricane in U.S. history after the 1935 Labor Day hurricane. You can see what Hurricane Camille did to these apartments in Louisiana from these before and after pictures. The apartment was completely eradicated. Again, this was before the hurricane, and this was right after. The summer of 1969 was a very busy summer. A few weeks earlier, we had landed on the moon. And also on August 17, 1969, the world's largest rock concert was held at Woodstock, New York. 400,000 people in attendance. The world's largest concert was held right in the middle of the Hong Kong flu pandemic, which killed as many as 4 million people around the world. The global death rates were higher than COVID-19, but there wasn't a lot of social distancing or mask wearing going on. But times have changed. On August 17, 2021, they had one case of a virus in New Zealand, and the Prime Minister told people, "Don't talk to your neighbors." And in Victoria, Australia, you're no longer allowed to take off your mask to consume alcohol outdoors. This was somewhat different from the 1969 pandemic when we had 400,000 people consuming alcohol and other substances all at the same time. Meanwhile, in other parts of the world, governments are demanding that everybody carry an ID to prove that they received some sort of injection. In New York City, Democrats are demanding that everybody show their injection ID in order to do any indoors activity. These are the same Democrats who told us a few months ago that it is racist to ask for an ID before somebody votes. Vaccination rates for black people are very low in New York City, so this appears to be a racist attack by the Democratic mayor. It's almost like he had some other agenda with his refusal to require voting ID. The weather is nowhere near as extreme as it used to be, but the insanity and hypocrisy of our government has reached record levels. Toto has been pulling back the curtain on this hostile takeover of civilization for the past 13 years. You can visit him, Kyrie, and Caesar on the web at realclimatescience.com.